Now, you might not fully buy into the idea that you can learn how to become a better investor by looking at other domains. At least not yet. In reality, that's really the key. And going to actually use The Last Dance as a case study for you to learn about the lessons I learned investing-wise. Welcome to the Championship Investing Podcast, where I teach you how to find your playbook to win in the stock market. So let's get ready to stop investing like a fan and invest more like a champion. Let's begin. So nothing helped me and pretty much all other sports fans more surviving the initial parts of COVID than that Last Dance documentary. I mean, it kept the talking heads going for days. You get Isaiah Thomas going back and reliving things. I mean, it was like we were living in real time, like we were back at that time. And I knew about Jordan's background, but learning about it as an adult is completely different, especially relearning these aspects about Jordan's background. And not just as a child, but some of the initial parts, the high school story, being cut, which was a little dramatized, but still being cut, to how he just climbed, and really that false confidence and false bravado that pretty much all high school and maybe some college kids have. He had it too, and to the point where, oh no, it's not false anymore. It's real. And the struggles and the resilience. Yeah. And it definitely served as important lessons of how hard it is to actually win a championship, becoming a champion, the road to get there. Extremely tough. Now, if you listen to my first episode, you know that I'm focusing on basketball to become a better investor. This focus came from a multi-year frustration of not being able to apply the lessons I learned from top hedge funds from my former role as an institutional investor. I come in contact with some of the best hedge funds in the world. I've learned about what they do, and I couldn't, for some reason, apply them or really stick to them when times got tough. Now, if you're struggling trying to do the same thing, trying to follow a top investor like a Buffett or Peter Lynch, or maybe even a Cathie Wood, then I feel your pain. And this struggle is probably why you feel behind on your wealth building goals. But what if I were to tell you that trying to follow somebody else's investment philosophy is not the answer? Instead, you can use the lessons you've learned in other domains and areas of life, like sports, as a way to actually find your own investment philosophy. Let me demonstrate how you can do that and how it kind of can play out, and looking at things from a different lens using The Last Dance. 3 main lessons that I've taken out of it that's investing related. Starting with number 1, which is having some complexity in your process can be a good thing. And a lot of ways, having complexity can lead to you actually having an edge in investing. So let's take triangle offense, which was pushed by assistant coach Tex Winter. The offense, for people who don't, fully understand, they just know the triangle piece, to fully understand the offense. Well, take the court, half court offense, split into 2 halves. One side, you're actually focusing a little bit more on a 3-on-3 game. That's the idea of the triangle. Second side is almost a 2-on-2 game. So you're essentially trying to split the court into 2. Now from there, offense is a little complicated. A lot of moving parts. And it requires a lot of read and reacting. Not just reading and reacting for yourself as the player, but reading and reacting based off the defenders. The whole team need to be on a string and need to be reading and reacting in the same way. So they gotta have some agreement on how we're seeing things. So yeah, playing that style, especially playing that style without the ball in your hands, does require, I'm not even necessarily going to say it requires a higher basketball IQ, but definitely requires a different kind of basketball IQ that, honestly, most players don't have, because we're just not taught the game in that way. Now, although Jordan didn't always love running the triangle to the T, it did also make it easier for him to focus on scoring. So there was a point in Jordan's path, just before Phil Jackson got there, remember, with Phil Collins, where the ball was in Jordan's hands nonstop. Kind of like the idea of heliocentric basketball that's happening today. If you look at players like Luka Doncic, is a perfect example. The ball is in his hands all the time. Started with James Harden. That's when we really started to point it out. But in reality, Jordan was doing this in 1987, 88, 89. Like Jordan was doing the same thing. Very high usage rate. And because of that, if he focused too much on scoring, then his teammates are going to be as involved in the game. So there's a little bit more of a balancing act of, I need to feed them occasionally. I see this with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all the time now, where it's like he's focused on scoring. And he's like, okay, I should probably pass the ball. I should probably get my teammates a little bit more involved. He has a little bit of that. The triangle offense breaks that up. It allows you to just focus on scoring. Because through the flow of the offense, everybody else is going to get opportunities. Everybody else is going to get there. The opportunities will naturally come. There's going to be times where you still need to be a little bit more thoughtful about it. Think about Game 5 against the Lakers, the double team in, the Paxson, he's open. But for the most part, the normal regular season, postseason, that mental load of thinking about others, making sure they're scoring, you don't have to worry about that. So that's one major benefit I believe Jordan picked up on with the triangle. Okay? And hey, he even got more open shots than what meets the eye. Go rewatch some of those games. Through the triangle offense, he's getting off the ball, cutting open mid-range shots. Or open quick jab shot. The triangle created those opportunities for him. And this, again, just to the flow of the game. Now, because of the complexity of the triangle offense, I do believe the offense was ahead of its time and played a much larger role in the Bulls' dynasty than what meets the eye. And also when Phil Jackson moved on to the Lakers too. Huge role. But you don't necessarily have to go all the way to the complexity that the triangle presents. There's a reason why Phil could only run this type of offense with Jordan, Kobe. As few players have the skill sets to actually run this effectively. And again, to bring it all together, it requires a different type of basketball IQ. When Phil tried to bring this offense to the Knicks and try to run it through Derek Fisher, you remember how much of a disaster that was? Trying to get Carmelo Anthony to look a lot more like Kobe and Jordan, which you would think on paper maybe you could pull it off. In reality, no. Different times, different player, different way he moves around the mid-range. And hey, look, we can partly put some blame on Carmelo for that not working out, but I'm putting way more blame on Phil because he didn't adapt the system to the personnel that he had, or even to the times. We're in the 2010s now. Just as the pace and space movement is starting to kick in, you have to adapt. You have to adapt or die. But somebody did find a way to adapt that triangle offense. The person was Steve Kerr. He found a way to adapt some of those principles, some of the key principles, the broader outreaching aspects of the triangle, but bring it to his personnel. So how do you do so? Well, there's one famous example. The triangle emphasizes this idea of the pinch post. The pinch post is, on the elbow on the weak side. So there's the 3-on-3 game going on, and that's the strong side because you got more personnel there. Weak side's the 2-on-2. One of those players in the 2-on-2 are on the elbow. Free throw. Elbow. They're in that area. There's a very strong area for a quick attack or even a good way to pass the ball or set things up, set up a quick dribble handoff, set up a pick and roll. It's a good area to just occupy on the court. Kerr made that area, a little bit more famous by putting Draymond Green there. And Draymond Green's there as posting up, but in reality, they're setting up a split action where for some reason, somehow, some way, Steph Curry has gotten so many open threes from this action. We all know he can shoot. He's the best shooter alive, the best shooter to ever play. And somehow he's getting open consistently with this action. So, all right, there's complexity. How does this actually apply to investing? Well, actually, I have to give a shout out here on a hedge fund manager who figured this out first. So one of my favorite hedge fund managers back in my day as an allocator was the Volion Group outside of Berkeley, California. During one of my early encounters with them, the chief investment officer named John McAuliffe discussed the idea of finding the right amount of complexity in terms of quantitative models for trading signals and just investing in general. He even introduced me to the idea of Occam's dilemma. Not the Occam's razor, which is the simplest explanation, is probably the answer. It's more of, no, if you want to actually take things up a notch and get as accurate as possible, you need to step up the complexity. You need to add a little bit more there. But you don't want to overdo it, because there is a chance you can overdo it. And why did he have that train of thought? Well, he had more of a statistical based background, and his hedge fund is based 100% on machine learning, even before machine learning and AI became a thing. So, yeah, he had to start thinking about this complexity thing. And I also think there's an element of, oh, the track record wasn't looking like amazing for all this complex stuff you're doing for the first decade plus of running his hedge fund. Call it what it is. But I think he found that right level. He found that level a little bit after COVID, speaking of, after March 2020, really going into 2021 and beyond. They found that right level of complexity, and they've been off to the races ever since. They've been hitting out the park ever since. And it was first with them where I recognized, like, hey, I don't mind stepping up the game on getting more complicated in building out my process. Don't have to just follow the simple advice of invest in quality companies. Don't look at your portfolio. That's what a lot of people preach, or things of that nature. No, you can step it up, and actually stepping up might be part of the reason why you can stick with your portfolio through the tough times. We live in a world that is really based off of simplicity bias, where people always want to go after the simple answer, the simple explanation. That's what gets people to move. But when it comes to being successful in the way you want to invest, the simple answer is often not the best answer. This applies to other areas of life, but this is especially true in investing. So take the time to experiment. You got to experiment. And part of that experiment process is experimenting with more advanced concepts, advanced analysis, certain elements that take things up from what you will hear when people talk about investing. And I'm thinking in terms of, there's different books that talk about Buffett, and then there's also different books that talk about other aspects of investing that take things up a notch. The books that probably cost more than $30 or $40, like these are the books that cost $70, $80, maybe $100. And they can get a little wonky in terms of maybe introduce some concepts you never heard of, or a lot more math and statistics come to the fray that can be intimidating. But experiment with them. There's a reason why those books are out there. And you might be surprised that in that experimenting, that feeling that I talked about in the last episode that you need to get might start to come out. So we got complexity, finding the right level. The triangle was the solve here. Second lesson, the mental game. Discovering how important your mental game is. Even seeing it as more important than the physical game, the game right in front of you, itself. Phil Jackson is the first coach I've known, and really, truly ever know, to dive deep into mindfulness. Incorporating those mindfulness techniques at work, incorporating meditation and things of that nature, with the goal of keeping players present in the moment, and focus more on the process instead of the result. I talked about this result piece, resulting, in the last episode, focusing on the process. If you believe in the process, the result will come. And in a lot of ways, too, that being present, especially if you're somebody that's maybe a little bit of myself, a little bit of a high achiever, somebody's always stride, maybe a little bit of an insecure overachiever to an extent, it is really easy to say to yourself, I've achieved this, what's next? And that always, what's next, keeps you from focusing in on the present. And a lot of times, a lot of people who are the most successful, or a lot get things done and achieve new things, go to new heights, keep the present in mind. They don't look too far in the past. They don't go too far into the future. They're able to stay present. So how can this apply to investing? Well, coming back to the mental game idea, part of it is you need to understand your own mental makeup. and avoid the common biases found by investors that kind of have a similar investing style. So this does require you to know if you're more of a value investor or a growth investor. And there's actually levels to it. It's not as set in stone. But you got to figure that aspect out first. And once you figure that aspect out, now you need to dive deeper into understanding what are the common biases, the common weaknesses, common strengths. Don't forget about the strengths, but put them to the side. Where does a value investor, where do they falter? What do they normally miss? Same thing for growth investors. Where do they normally fall? Where do they normally miss? Because, newsflash, you'll definitely have those same issues. You'll definitely have those same weaknesses. You're definitely going to have those same biases. Now, in my hybrid coaching program, I will help you pinpoint not just what kind of value investor you are. Are you closer to Buffett, or are you closer to Bill Miller, for example, on the value investing side? Not only am I going to help you do that, but also help you find the right element of complexity to have in your process. So that complexity can be in the number of steps, it can be in how far you deep dive into stocks, it can be in a lot of different areas where complexity can really show. So if you're actually interested in learning more about that program, and the next time that I have opening available slots, click the link in the description below, join the waiting list, and you'll definitely be notified when the time comes. Last lesson, learn from the last dance. Well, at least the third, because there's actually a fourth. Third lesson is the importance of team building. Now, here's the thing. Jerry Krause is painted as the villain. That's the whole setup. He's the villain. But I think what a lot of people are missing, even with the Napoleon complex and all, what a lot of people are missing, his genius. His genius in putting this team together and continuing to re-up the team built around Michael Jordan. Now, this is where I'll kind of caveat things, where it's like, well, if you start with Michael Jordan, how hard could it actually be? And I would agree with that if Jordan only won 1 or 2 championships. He won 6, and for it to be separated, no. Yo, you guys are not giving Krause enough love. You're not giving him enough love. I understand. He had that Napoleon complex. He was overconfident. Just the insecurities came too hard out of him. It ended up coming out. But he was definitely a value investor, which already had his prime jewel, the prime part of his portfolio set in stone. He just needed to build around it and continuously re-up around it. And he found that way and then some. And let's not also forget, part of the reason why he figured this out, he wasn't a basketball scout. That wasn't his background before becoming a GM. He was a baseball scout. So, unique situation where he took probably some lessons, some things he learned as a baseball scout and applied it to basketball and was able to see things that other basketball scouts, other basketball GMs were just simply not able to see. Case in point, and this you can consider his magnum opus, the 1987 draft. Let's not forget the wizardry this man pulled off during that draft. In the first round. For people to remember, let's just bring it back. 1987. He traded up to get Scottie Pippen. Honestly, it was a secret trade that made it happen, but he traded up to get Scottie Pippen. At the same time, that was the same draft. Pick number 10, he drafted Horace Grant. These were the second and third best players during the Bulls' first three-peat. Again, nobody else would have been able to see it. Nobody else would have been able to see it. He saw it. He saw giving up picks, the move up a few slots to get Scottie Pippen was well worth it. And again, Scottie might have gotten a lot of love and attention, but keep in mind, Scottie was overlooked even before coming to college, kind of overlooked in college. But Jerry Krause had that much belief. He fell in love with his game. He saw how it can work, and he saw something that other GMs could not see. What about that second? Three-peat. Retooling around the Bulls. Including the big swing on Dennis Rodman. Come on, man. I gotta give Krause his flowers, man. He was a genius. Yes, the insecurities got the best of him. That ego got the best of him. It does it all the time. For some reason, in sports in particular, that ego really creeps up. But I'm just saying, he deserves way more of the pie of why that team was successful. Now, I'm not going to say organizations win championships. I'm not going to say that. He don't deserve that big of a pie. See, that was his problem. He wanted too much credit. But now we're retrospectively looking back at it, and now we're not giving him enough. Because, come on, man. We know who the real villain was. It was the other Jerry. Reinsdorf. He could have stepped in at any point in time, remedied the situation. He could have did better and just gave Scotty the better contract. Come on, you understand the situation. I get. He signed what he signed, but the NBA, literally salary cap blew up, and you didn't have to give him exactly what he wanted. You just could have got him a little bit closer. And you could have stepped in at any point in time, controlled Jerry Krause. But no, you wanted this to happen. Reinsdorf wanted this to happen. He wanted Krause to be pointed as the villain. But look at what the Bulls have done ever since. Take out 1 or 2 years of Derrick Rose, and what do we got? We got a cheap owner who you question how much they actually care about winning. Newsflash, that's almost every owner. Every bad owner, or every, I'll say, underperforming owner. Just collecting the checks. Hopefully we're good sometimes, but it's about maximizing the revenue, maximizing the dollars. That's Reinsdorf. So yes, over time, I see more of Krause's visionary thinking, his creative thinking, and how he puts such an emphasis on building the team and building the team in a way where other GMs and really maybe other pundits at the time could not see what he was doing, but it all came together. And it also meshed very well with what Phil Jackson and Tex Winter was going for in the triangle. It all came together. You cannot underappreciate the idea of team building. So how does this relate to investing? Well, instead of telling you now, I'm going to tell you the next episode because it deserves way more time than where we're at right now. This is around the time I like to end episodes, so we're going to end it. We're going to come close to ending it now. But again, it deserves its own episode. Now, there's also a fourth lesson I did learn from The Last Dance, watching the save time. But let's just say I'm going to save that for whenever I do an episode on this GOAT debate between MJ and LeBron. I'm going to save it for then. Now, even though I am going to save, the last lesson from The Last Dance for the next episode, I can tell you that it will also have a lot to do with my beloved Texas Tech Red Raiders and our basketball team. If you have not picked up by now, especially in the first 3 episodes, I'm wearing Tech gear the entire time. I am taping this while we're in the midst of a renaissance over here. I mean, I'm taping this at the football stadium. You know how good our football team is? We're coming for the championship. All right, we're coming for the championship. We're going to be national champions. I'm saying it right now before it happens. I'm going to get this out before it actually happens, before we play against Oregon. I'm saying it now. I'm going to save my fandom for the next episode, but just know there's a tie-in to them as well and how they think about team building. And it's really both basketball and football, but we'll pay a little bit more attention to the basketball team on it. So until next time, stay invested, stay sophisticated.